Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
And I'm Uncle Dan.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is your first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Things work differently now.
Never fear. That's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields,
we're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get one that we know of, so you better make the most of it.
Let's do it!
Well, Uncle Dan.
Yes, sir.
Here we are at the improbably round number of episode number 40.
Yeah, we seem to have done a few of these now.
Yeah, we still keep on keeping on, and we're having a fun time doing it. And this week we have some fun at and with the expense of some silly things.
Yeah. We like to talk about all the wackiness out there in the world, and there's plenty to do so.
And I think you're going to talk about the potential for worshiping some rocks.
Yes, indeed. And then you are going to introduce us to a very interesting saint.
Yeah, don't get your tits in a twist. We'll figure it out. And when we do talk about it, just to our listeners out there, there's a little bit of rough talk about sexual assault. So be ready for that.
Shit gets ugly a lot of the time with the saints, unfortunately.
And then Uncle Doug is going to tell us about a good warrior who
a good man in the Bible, which means things are going to go very, very badly for him.
Which means his fate is going to be horrendous. So enjoy episode 40. We'll see you on the other side.
Hooray!
Well, Uncle Mark.
Yeah, right here.
How's the weather up there in the Great White North?
It's there's 50 feet of snow, and they have a different weather measuring temperature thing. So I think it's 27.
It's how many moose knuckles to the rod?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a little bit overcast up here in Studio North. How is it in Studio South?
It's freaking hot down here.
Yeah, it's spicy.
Yeah, but it's a dry heat.
Yeah.
Well, Uncle Mark, occasionally on this program, we look at strange things out there in the world that affect our lives on a daily basis, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And Uncle Dan, you have some tidbit of woo to share with us today.
We're going to watch out for some woo, and this particular woo is pretty prevalent out there, and a delight, actually. And what we're going to be talking about are rocks, just pretty rocks, mostly.
Jade eggs up your poos.
No, better than that. I think that may be sort of covered under the umbrella of what we're going to be talking about, but we're going crystals.
Yay!
Today.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on. I'm warming up my third eye.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody shake out your chakras because the energy is going to flow.
Yes.
Crystal healing is a quote-unquote complementary healing technique, which, according to people, goes back millennia, 2,000 years or so, but I don't think anybody can really tell you where that comes from. It just seems to be a claim. Like pretty much everything we're going to be talking about in this segment, it's a claim.
Right.
That people are making.
And therefore is covered under the First Amendment.
Is covered under the First Amendment of bullshit.
And therefore gay people have to bake a wedding cake for crystals.
If two crystals are going to get married, bake a damn cake. Whether you're a baker or not, you don't have a choice.
You're forced to, yeah.
Yeah.
I heard Ron Paul make this argument.
It's all right there in the First Amendment.
It is all right there. So what do you guys know about crystals? Any thoughts? Any what I'm curious what your initial impressions are of this new age wonderful healing thing.
I know that scientifically, I know that from the science that they are kind of a strange creature, right? That they are a mineral that accrues or grows in a very unusual way. Is that correct?
Well, basically, so a crystal, I mean, you're right in that what makes them pretty and what makes them interesting to look at and what often makes them kind of see-through and stuff is that their molecular structure lines up in a sort of perfect formation. The way when water takes on its solid form, it takes a crystalline structure. And that's nice, and it actually does have a sort of perfection to it.
This is really embarrassing.
What?
Well, what I know about crystals is that to become a Jedi Knight, a Padawan has to find his own kyber crystal that will power his lightsaber and give it its color. But clearly,
Doug, and put it up his poos.
You're kicked off the show, Doug. Sorry, you've gone one level too nerdy. I'm afraid.
I'm going to go do
the
Star
Klingon
Talk.
thing was just about enough.
Yeah, exactly. You're in timeout. You're in nerd timeout. No, okay. So let's talk about quartz, which is one of the sort of main crystals. It's a very prominent crystal element or mineral that is around the world.
Often expressed in a purple tone. Yeah.
It's maybe I see a lot of it in just sort of a white/clear. Quartz crystals are. But quartzite can be almost anything. As a matter of fact, the Taj Mahal is made of a quartzite. Really? People think it's a marble, but it's technically not, and that's why it's kind of see-through. You can actually shine light from inside of it and see that light through some of the walls.
No kidding.
So quartz is an interesting crystal, and if you know anything, so for instance, you've heard of a quartz watch or a timepiece. And what that means is that timepiece actually uses the crystal to keep its time. Well, how does it do that? Vibrations is the word that's going to drive you crazy for the entire rest of this whole segment. Really what happens is if you run an electric current through a quartz crystal, it vibrates at a very like the current current has its own frequency, and if you run it through a quartz crystal, it establishes a very reliable frequency, and you can set a time by that. You can keep time by that reliable frequency. Now, that's as close to real science as I know how to get about these crystals.
Yeah.
But we're going to abandon real science now and take some steps into the land of woo, where vibration is the most meaningful word that anyone can say in the world. As a matter of fact, there's a quote from one Mr. Albert Einstein, and I'm going to find that quote if I can figure out which of these documents that I have pulled up actually has a quote in it. This is quoted on some website. But it says, Albert Einstein said, everything in life is vibration.
Oh, no, he didn't say that.
And that quote is expanded in a lot of things. It's a very prevalent quote on all the woo sites. And Uncle Doug, you have hit on something very interesting, which is, no, he did not say this. There is no time in his entire career it doesn't line up with anything that he thought. It's literally not Einstein, but boy howdy, they love that quote.
Right. That is like a woogasm quote.
Yes.
Right there.
Yeah. Right. And from a scientist, a famous physicist, it just means that everything in the world that they've said is true.
Right.
I'll bet when Deepak Chopra read that, he had to be treated with emergency acupuncture.
Right. Yes, indeed. I'm going to read. I'm just going to quote to you from one of the websites that I found. It says that healing created over the millennia, which I suppose so. It takes time for crystals to form. Right. Healing crystals harness the life-giving elements of the earth and the universe. Harnessing the energy of the sun, the moon, and the oceans, semi-precious stones connect us to earth as soon as we come into contact with them. So there you go.
The fact that there wasn't a monk chanting behind you when you said that is very jarring to me.
Right. Where's my didgeridoo? It's around here somewhere. I've got a didgeridoo. And so I should have
harnesses okay. It harnesses the power of the sun, the moon, and the ocean.
Yes.
And connects you to the earth. It's just all the things. It's just everything.
Right. All it makes is sense. This is just, I mean, it's obvious when you think about it, right? It's a rock, and somehow the moon is involved.
I know. The sun, okay. The sun's kind of a very important part of any kind of process on the earth. But the moon?
Yeah. I don't know. I'll continue with the quote here. Many people wonder if crystals have healing powers. And while there are many anecdotes describing the curative effects of healing stones, it really depends on your own experience, which is the best cop-out I have ever read on a website about woo.
It is, my entire philosophy is based on complete dependence on the fallacy of the personal anecdote.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I fully admit it. That's the great thing.
Yeah, that's a caveat big enough to drive all of chemistry through.
I'll bet an emergency room doctor would attest to the fact that a crystal definitely has healing power if you can stick it in a bullet wound that's exactly the same size to stop the bleeding.
Or if you can put it in front of the bullet before it hits you.
Yeah. Short of that, methinks no.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Like many of the woo that we have encountered over the course of our 60 episodes or whatever, 40 episodes, that is.
200,000.
Yeah, it feels like too many. This one does have a perceivable effect in studies, and that perceivable effect is the same as placebo. So we have achieved full placebo effect with this. There have not been many studies about crystals, but there have been a few. And usually what ends up happening is they give a crystal, they prime people for it. They tell them what crystals do, or rather what crystal lovers say they do. And then they give people a crystal, and then they let them do whatever woo they do with it, and then they ask them how they feel afterward. And half of the study they give real crystals, and half of the study they give fake crystals. And you'll be literally shocked. I mean shocked to find out that no, actually there's no difference in the perception of each. They both have the fake crystals have every bit as much healing power as the real ones. So
this is are they giving these to wounded people or sick people, or are they just giving the people and saying, how do you feel? How's your mood?
Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of thing. Or it's like, I mean, like, go ahead and put it on your bum knee and tell us how you feel at the end of it or whatever. And that's what people do. Now, a lot of crystal practitioners will tell you different crystals have different, the lapis lazuli does one thing and the smoky quartz does another thing. And that would be great if they agreed with each other on what these things do.
Of course.
But they don't.
And it has nothing to do with them owning a shop that sells lapis lazuli and smoky amethyst, right? It just happens to be. They're just pharmacists. They're just pushers.
Basically,
they're just pushers.
They're the ones who know. And there are online quote-unquote universities accredited by no one for anything that will give you a degree or will give you a certification in crystal healing, and you can go out into the world and say, I'm certified as a crystal healer, and then voila, you know all the things you need to know about your various and sundry, your quartzes and your amethysts and your things,
oh, God.
And, of course, it does get dangerous when they start to talk about crystals being the better alternative for your cancer than chemo or whatever.
Right.
But in fairness, onyx is pretty. So how could they be wrong?
Have you guys ever been to like Taos, New Mexico, or one of the places that, of course, is an energy vortex, where you can feel that around you? You will find what in any other part of the world would be called a rock shop.
Right.
Where there are these, crystals of various types. Have you seen the prices on these things? Like, it is lucrative. Whoever's selling these as medicinal, kind of cures, it is. They're in the thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
It can be. Although most crystal healers will say that, the crystals that you pick up at the local planetarium in their pretty rocks bin will work for you if they're the right kind of crystals. And so, there are books that you can buy, and some crystals you need to make sure that you put them on your head, and some because that's the chakra that one aligns. And then some of them, of course, you put on your chest, and I think and then of course there are the ones that you put up your hoo-ha
and your butt.
Your butt
crystal.
Well, it just depends on, if you're a man or a woman and, what you're into, really. Your kinks are your own in terms of crystals. I think everybody can agree with that.
Totally.
So, this ends up being about vibration. If you try to nail anybody down, they don't know what it means that it's about vibration, but they know that it's about vibration.
Right.
And the crystals will somehow make you vibrate. Now, if you vibrate on the same frequency as the universe, then magic and you win at lifing. I'm not. It becomes, frankly, what's great is that these people talk so sincerely about vibrations, and then when you ask them about it, if you try to drill down at all, they get very, very frustrated.
Right.
Here's another interesting quote from a different website. This says, "Crystals vibrate at a frequency that is nearly immeasurable." And by nearly, I think they mean all the way.
Yes, exactly.
Can only be picked up on an e-meter.
Right, exactly. Can only be picked up with bullshit. But this person says, "But we are getting closer. The Carillion camera," which, again, I think we've gone back to Star Trek, showed that by holding a clear quartz crystal, one's biomagnetic field doubles in size, generating electromagnetism, meaning it actually gives you a bigger aura.
It's an aura boner.
If you read that quote 3 times into a mirror, Deepak Chopra will show up.
I have a friend, a dear friend, and Doug, you know who I'm talking about, whose mother is a high priestess practitioner of woo.
Sure.
And he was telling me that one of the more recent times that he went to visit his mother, she had a new gong. And she was very proud of, and she operated the gong. I don't know what you call operating a gong. She gonged it, and
he was kicked off the show. That's so mean.
Jamie Farr gonged it, and he said she was very proud that it vibrated at the frequency of a soon-to-be-discovered new planet.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, not discovered yet. Not discovered yet.
That's You gotta love the untestable claims, because those are the ones that are the most meaningful. If you can't even point to which planet it is, no one can falsify you.
What's Earth's frequency? Is it like AM 570?
It's 107.3 The Blaze.
It's the undiscovered planet is planet none your business.
Right.
So,
exactly. I just love it. So I read you that whole thing about making your aura bigger and the Carillion camera or whatever, and the Curlian camera. I don't know what that means. I love that immediately following that, this very author says, so they've written, meaning it actually gives you a bigger aura. Cool. But what does that mean? Meaning he doesn't even. They don't even know. They cannot tell you what having a bigger aura might indicate. But boy, howdy, holding that crystal sure gives it to you.
Right. I think not again. We don't want to delve into actual provable science, but I think that oftentimes a doctor might tell you, based on whatever condition you have, that bigger is not always better.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. What if it's like a tumor? Having a bigger aura might be horrible for you. If we knew what an aura was,
you have an enlarged heart.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've always worried about the Grinch on that front. Like, his heart grew 3 sizes that day. That sounds really, really bad.
In a day.
Yeah, exactly.
In a day. And who's going to feed that poor little dog if he dies?
It's a very valid question. So here we are. We're stuck with a bunch of rocks that somehow magnify or demagnify your vibration.
Right.
And somehow we vibrate too. And
Right.
if you talk to them, if you talk to a practitioner about vibration, they love to get into things like, well, we now know that string theory in quantum physics is all about these strings that vibrate, and that's what we're all made of, and everything is made up of these vibrating strings. And if strings are vibrating, then we know that we're all vibrating, and blah 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 blah. And none of it's how physics actually works, but they use it just enough physics words to make it make sense to them.
It's basically like, what was that? There's that garbage woo movie that posed as science. What was that? The What the Bleep Do We Know?
What the bleep? Sure.
Yeah.
With Marley Madeline, and where people are just literally saying, "Oh, science just continues to prove our completely bizarre claims," and physicists are like, "Yeah, no, that's not even remotely the case. That's not what string theory is. That's not what quantum gravity is. None of that proves anything that you're claiming."
Right.
And but getting back to just go to the planetarium, which is actually a place that celebrates science, but let's forget about that. Go back to the planetarium and get a handful of pretty rocks. If these people seriously believe what they're claiming to believe, that's like going to a pharmacy, walking to a pharmacy and just taking whatever pills, right?
Sure.
You don't know what your vibration is, so you
It's
don't know
all
what
medicine.
fucking crystal medicine you need for your. What if you get the wrong one?
Well, what you're not taking into account is that they're all just good. Everything's just good for you.
There is no like dark crystal that if you should avoid.
Yeah, avoid the movie The Dark Crystal.
Yes, do definitely avoid
terrible.
the movie. It is.
Oh,
it did
isn't
not
that
age.
sad?
Yeah.
It's a
Isn't that
betrayal of
sad?
my childhood to
Yeah.
say so. I understand.
I
but
promise you, it's better in your memory.
yeah. If you haven't seen it recently, don't. Anyway, no. As far as I can find, there are no crystals that counteract your health or that are counter-indicated by anything. It's just.
What if you overdose? What if you what if you get the wrong remember the film of that bridge that's like blowing in the wind and then it just breaks the fuck apart? That's vibrations.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
You just vibrate.
you get the wrong 6 crystals on the wrong chakras, and suddenly you just explode.
You're like that creature in what was it, Jacob's Ladder that he sees in the subway, whose head's just like shaking.
Yeah,
Yeah, totally. Like I think that's there's the danger here.
yeah. Fortunately for everybody, all of this is literally bullshit.
Right.
So you can't, unless you drop a very large crystal on your head, you're fine. You're going to be safe.
Right. And I just want our listeners who we love out there to understand, Uncle Dan, this was not condemning vibrators. He was condemning the idea of vibration as a thing that we are.
Indeed,
we love vibrators.
If you have a thing at home that actually vibrates,
Right.
put that on your vagina.
Or
That's
if you can
fantastic.
find
Put
a
it in your
crystal that will
poos.
bring you to climax, buy that crystal.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Buy me one.
Right. Unfortunately, these vibrations are not what you might call in science real, and therefore cannot help you come to climax at all, except by the. I don't. Can you have a placebo climax? Can you have a placebo-gasm? Because that sounds
I don't
great.
know. Ask Uncle Doug. I think he's been present for more than a few.
Hey,
Ew.
hey, yo. Oh.
All right. Well, with that, let's vibrate on.
Yeah, I think we've hit it. Vibrate into the future, guys.
Namaste.
Moving on. So, Uncle Mark, in this world, there are people who are so magically good
Yeah.
that we all feel a special feeling about them.
Yeah. Mr. Rogers, maybe.
Sure.
A lot of people like Fabio quite a bit.
Sure, absolutely. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Uncle Doug seems like a pretty nice guy.
I like Fabio.
So there you go.
Yeah, let's go with Uncle Doug. Yeah.
But then there are people that the church likes a lot, and you found one of those. Is that true?
Yeah, it's kind of the Catholic version of a superdelegate, right? It's just they got quite a few more votes than just your average schmo. It's the Electoral College. So every once in a while we like to focus on a saint, mostly just because Catholicism is endlessly bizarre. It's fascinating that it's both so fucking weird and beloved of a billion plus people on this planet, Yeah. So I think, Catholics, like a lot of people, maybe just ignore a few of the strange little bits. But let's take a look at one of those, two of those strange little bits, and you'll know what I'm talking about in a minute. So today I want to talk about an OG saint, and that would be Saint Agatha of Sicily, who many of you probably know exactly nothing about.
Well, I think I know Saint Agatha of Christie. Is that the same thing, or?
Yeah, she was the most mysterious of saints. That
Boo.
Yeah, she was the patron saint. She was the patron saint of the murderer being in the room. So Saint Agatha, who I had very, very knowledge of, except for one little moment when I was in art history in art school, and we'll get to it. But so she, Saint Agatha, although Saint was not her first name at birth, as you can imagine, she added that later on, was born in Catania, or maybe she was born in Palermo, Sicily, around the year 231 ACE. So she's quite an old saint. And as you remember, 231 ACE was basically just a super good time to be alive. And so to prove that point, I will describe to you at some point how she died really badly just 20 years later in 251. And of course, I don't have to tell you guys this. We know of her because her story is first recorded, and I'm going to sprain my tongue saying this, in the Martyrologium Heroinianum. Yeah. And that's a famous martyrology, which is kind of a yearbook of murdered faithful, kept by none other than Saint Jerome of Stridon.
A good martyrology. Frankly, there need to be more martyrological podcasts, because I feel like a good martyrology is just it's like true crime, only in a different slightly
only
different vein.
Boring and insane at the same time.
Right.
I think we might be the leading martyrological podcast.
We
at
might
this
be,
point, but I'm not willing to bet everything I have on it. So, so as listeners no doubt already know, she is also mentioned in the Synaxarion and, of course, the Carmenia of Ventantius Fortunatus. So, she's really a patron saint beloved of people who write books with titles that are impossible to pronounce.
Right,
but she is not their patron saint. So what is her story? What is the story of Saint Agatha of Sicily? So like our friend Saint Bibiana, if you remember we discussed a while back, who was refused to become a lesbian, so they beat her to death with lead plummets.
Right.
Saint Agatha of Sicily is one of the most venerated virgin martyrs of Christian antiquity.
Ooh.
She was very young, but as Dr. Eldon Tyrell said in Blade Runner, the candle that burns half as long was surely twice as virtuous. So
Bladereth Runicus Dominicatus
Overus. So she was born to a rich family of some kind of nobility in Sicily. And because she loved God so much, at the tender age of 15, she had herself made into a consecrated virgin, which is basically a nun, but you still kind of live at home and don't have to wear the habit, et cetera, et cetera. So you're a virgin for life, and you live in your parents' basement. So they were incels before the internet, right?
No, that's just a cell. The in part doesn't apply.
So along comes this low-born Roman local prefect by the name of Quintianus. He tried pitching woo at young Agatha, and she rejected him, because she was a permanent virgin for Jesus and all that jazz. So
right.
He tries again and is rebuffed. So because someone was rude to him and he wouldn't fuck him, he bought a tiki torch and voted for a Nazi at the end. No, he actually tried several more times, and when she wouldn't give up, the Virgo Castoria, little Easter egg for our Latin-speaking listeners, he had her dragged in front of the local judge. And who was this local judge, Uncle Dan? It was himself.
Oh.
Yeah. So not good for Agatha of Sicily. So now recall that her few unlucky years were spent under what Christians have come to call the persecution of Emperor Decius, who, as we all know, issued an edict that all Roman subjects would make sacrifices to the old gods and have those recorded by local authorities. So this is the Catholic Church really got into the saint business. Centuries later, they made a ton of saints out of this time. Now, a little aside, they've whipped this edict up into this huge hurricane of mass discrimination against the faithful, but the historical record shows not much in the way of evidence of programmatic discrimination and violence against Christians during this period, since it wasn't long afterwards that Constantine would declare it the official religion. Yada, yada, yada. But
sure.
Why let that get in the way of a good story? So, basically the narrative is that Quintianus wanted under the toga of young Agatha, and knowing the beastly Decius would do nothing to stop him, he abused his authority in order to force her to comply, much like a 3rd century version of ICE. So, Quintianus drags her into court and threatens her with torture and death. Even then she won't relent, and in front of the court she prays, "Jesus Christ, Lord of all, you see my heart. You know my desires. Possess all that I am your sheep. Make me worthy to overcome the devil." So that pissed Quintanius off, of course, because he was not into the Christian thing.
Well, and what could be less sexy than praying? I mean, come on. You're really ruining the mood at that point.
Spare a thought for the court reporter at that point that was trying to chisel that into the stone tablet as she was
that was recording that in a fresco, so in a mosaic. So pissed off Quintanius has her taken to a brothel run by a woman who, of course, was named Aphrodisia, where Agnes suffered, and this is where it's going to start to get gruesome for anybody who's triggered by anything, where Agnes suffered a brutal month of rape and assault in an attempt to get her to change her mind. And then Quintanius dragged her back into court and demanded once again that she put out, and apparently even begged her to do it, but she would not relent. So in a rage, again, here comes any triggering possibilities. In a rage, he had her imprisoned where she was stretched on a rack, torn with iron hooks and whipped.
Ugh.
And finally, they cut her breasts off with pincers.
Jesus.
So, somehow surviving all this, she got dragged into the court again.
And wait a minute.
Again,
I'm going to stop you right there. She did not survive all that.
She survived. Well,
I'm just going to point out that, like, medically speaking, in that time period, with all the things that you just described, she's already dead. But go on with your story.
Are you saying that some part of the story of sainthood might not be true?
I'm saying we're focusing on the wrong miracle. She's alive still.
Let's remember that just a few weeks ago we did a story about a saint who survived his own decapitation and walked 7 miles. So, getting your tits cut off, yeah, if you can survive a decapitation, you can probably deal with this for a bit.
Little did they know they were actually helping her survive the breast cancer that none of them knew she had.
That would be the true miracle, right? So she taken into court again. Somehow she got through this. Refuses his final offer of a dream date.
So hang on. So after all, he's stretched her in a rack, torn her with hooks, chopped her boobs off, and he still wants to marry her.
He's like super into her now.
I think this story could be told from a very different perspective. This guy really loved this woman. It's a rom-com.
It doesn't matter.
It gives a new definition to bodice ripping, right? So
she just forgot to wear the bodice. That's it. That's all.
It's her fault. Why did she put the bodice on when they got to the ripping? So
the tagline of the movie would be she puts the Catholic Mass in double mastectomy.
Oh my God.
Oh Jesus. So that aside, she goes into court, bound up somehow, and she got a little blood, honey, and he once again offers her himself as this kind of dream date, and she refuses and responds to this horrible mutilation by saying to Quintianus, cruel man, have you forgotten your mother and the breast that nourished you, that you dare to mutilate me this way? Which I think is a fair question.
Right.
Yep,
So,
sure.
a fair question. So he continues to feel no mercy for Agatha, and then she was finally sentenced to be burned at the stake. And for an odd twist for a martyrdom, for a saint, for reasons that I could not find any detail about, she was saved from that gruesome fate by an earthquake. That's all it says. Saved from being burned by this. Maybe the stake fell over. I don't know. It doesn't say what it was that saved her. So she lived in prison for another 2 years, apparently. And it's assumed that she died there in 251 ACE. So neither of these people having gotten what they wanted. What kind of magic do you think this persistent young virgin generated post-mortem? Well, let me tell you. In 1551, she appeared as an apparition to a Benedictine nun and therefore saved Malta from a Turkish invasion. So that's
wow.
pretty neat. Yeah,
That's a good trick.
pretty neat.
Okay.
And the way it was written in this little
The Turks
Catholic
are
thing was
coming.
like,
The Turks are coming. Someone tell a nun.
Right, exactly. I've been waiting for a job for 1,300 years, and God finally go tell her about the Turks.
Go tell that
Yeah.
nun about the Turks.
Yeah, so that's all it said, like, duh. And just a year after her death, she's believed to have stopped an impending eruption of Mount Etna. And to this day, the people of Catania still parade her veil through the streets on her feast day, which is, Uncle Doug, obviously knows, February 5th.
Of course.
In order to prevent volcanic eruption. So that's also super neat. So knowing all,
You'd think
knowing
that
all
they could
this
just
about-
put the veil over the volcano. And that,
Yeah, typically virgins are just thrown directly into the volcano, and don't have the aspect of their body most resembling a volcano cut off. But
Right.
right. Well,
Well, they were going to throw her into the volcano, but she was saved by an earthquake.
it's like jazz, just as variations. So, knowing all this about this poor kid, you won't be surprised by what things she is the patron saint of. So she's the patron saint of Sicily. No surprise there. She's the patron saint of natural disasters. So good to know mudslides have a saint of their own, I guess.
yeah.
Patron saint of jewelers. Okay. Also of, and this is specific, breast cancer.
Okay.
Well, that makes sense.
I was gonna say if you had said lingerie makers, that would have been funny.
Or tailors, but
Right.
braziers. But not specifically people with breast cancer. So just breast cancer.
Oh, I didn't know that cancer's got saints.
Well, that's the same thing with natural
cancer-
disasters. Like, it's not the survivors or victims of natural disasters. It's natural disasters, right?
Right, and that will probably be somebody else. But
Right.
like with at least breast cancer has someone to pray to.
Yeah.
Also, wet nurses, which makes sense.
Does
Rape
it though?
victims.
Like she was never a wet nurse. She couldn't do any wet. Like virgins don't have anyone to nurse anyway.
But it's the breast thing. You'll see. It's all about the breast thing. It's just breast. So
which is
rape
dangerous around
victims-
Uncle Doug, but that's okay.
Oh, geez. Rape victims makes total sense. Torture victims also makes total sense.
Yeah.
And bell founders. Now,
All right.
what is a bell founder? That is a person who casts church bells.
Right.
Why she is the saint of church bells, church bell makers, according to the Big Book of Saints, is because severed breasts are shaped like bells.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
my God.
Wow.
So, yeah, yummy, huh? So let's just say you find yourself of an afternoon in Palermo, in the shade of Mount Etna, dozing in her slumber because of the constant geological intercession of a 20-year-old girl killed 1,500 years ago. But you're a little hungry and want a snack to commemorate her. Well, fellas, you're in luck. You can enjoy a mine di Sant'Agata, which is a sweet little dome-shaped thing of a treat with a bright red cherry on top. I'm serious. Enjoyed by local families who like giving their children a dessert that encourages them to think about a girl having her breast chopped off by a vicious and corrupt legal system.
Wow.
So I feel like they ought to sell them in pairs, but enjoy them any way you like. So that's our friend Saint Agatha of Sicily, everyone.
Oh my God. Well, that is a hell of a tale, and
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go get me a boob dessert.
Let's go get some boob desserts. Let's move on.
Moving on. Oh, Uncle Mark, there are such good people in the world.
Despite everything we talk about on this show week after week,
Yeah.
it is hard to believe that actually there are good people in the world. And the next segment, we'll talk about one of them and what happened to him. That aside, there are some damn good people, and I think the bulk of them listen to this show.
Yes, indeed, and the best of them actually are willing to part with a little bit of their own money to help us keep this show going. And I'd like to thank those folk right now. These are our patrons. They've gone to howtoheretic.com and they've clicked on the Patronus button. No, wait, that's not it. The Patreon button. And they've signed up to do this. And here are some people that we have to thank. We got to thank Tim, Dave, Angela, and I think you did our last saint. So I have to come up with a saint on the fly for one. Matthew, who came in at the level in which you get a saint. So
Yes.
Matthew's saint is Saint Barnabas of Flagstaff. And St. Barnabas is the patron saint of extra tall trees and reality television and those who have to deal with the stars thereof.
Wow.
So
That's pretty cool. That's goes from general to incredibly specific, and I think that's the best we can hope for in a saint. Like, from jewelry to volcanoes. So
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
yeah. Well,
And
I mean,
thank you.
as we just learned, that's kind of what saints do.
That's their shtick. So Matthew, thank you so much. He's a dear
Thank
friend
you.
and a friend of the show.
Yeah. For the rest of you, if you feel like you like what we do, we don't want to belabor the point, but pony up.
If you can't afford to throw a little money in the coffee kitty, give us a 5-star review on any one of your pod blasters, and to whatever jackass gave us a 1-star review on iTunes, please write a description. Please tell us why, because I would love to have read that. It's our only one, and it'll hopefully be there by itself forever. But for the rest of you, if you can,
I mean, the truth is that every time we get a 1-star review, we need several of you to counteract it with a 5-star review. Otherwise, we are in danger of slipping in our rating. So get out there and do the good work and give us a good review.
absolutely. Let's move on.
Let's do it.
Well, Uncle Dan,
Yes, sir.
we are joined today by someone who is no more a resident expert in anything than you and I are.
Oh, good.
Therefore, incredibly well qualified to talk about things of great import on the show, and that is Uncle Doug.
Uncle Doug,
Hello.
you're here.
And
I'm
Uncle
back.
Uncle Doug is going to dig into. Look, I believe we're at episode 40,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's the one.
we do every show. We do multiple episodes. We do multiple segments on the weird, the wonderful, the woolly, strange spectrum of religious belief from all over the world, and I don't think we've scratched the surface.
No.
Not even a little. So, Uncle Doug, you have dug into the children's treasury of terrible stories.
That's right.
And what terrible Brothers Extremely Grim story have you brought to us this week?
Well, you guys certainly know, and no doubt many of your listeners will know, the story of David and Bathsheba.
Sure.
Yes.
Or at least of David, right? David and Goliath, for example. These are well-worn, well-known, well-trod stories.
Point of order, I just want to make clear, so in case anybody missed it, David had a boyfriend. His name was Jonathan, okay? And then he fucked somebody else's
we
wife and had
discussed
him
that.
killed.
Yep.
Yeah. So, point made.
So while David would require quite a deep dive of his own, and we won't do that today, because he does kind of dominate a large part of the Old Testament. And Bathsheba is the rarest of birds in that she's a woman in the Bible with a name.
Right.
Yes.
Those are not who I want to talk about today. I actually want to talk about a character in the story of David and Bathsheba that you probably don't know about, It's actually one of the most upright characters in all of the Bible, and one of incredible consequence in the history of Israel and the reign of David.
Okay.
But one that he gets no primary songs. He gets no crappy movies made by David A.R. White, although he kind of deserves one.
Yet.
Yet. I am talking, of course, about Uriah the Hittite.
Yes, who is Uriah the Hittite?
Uriah the Hittite. So a little discussed part of the larger David story to me is this is one of the more interesting and kind of compelling stories of the Old Testament. And I mean that honestly. This is a great story. It's not great because it's moral. It's not great because it's instructive. It's great because it's a story full of sex, betrayal, murder. It's a really great Shakespearean, story. It belongs in no book that's supposed to be a code of ethics,
right?
But it's a good story.
It's the falcon crest of the pre-Christian world, is what you're saying,
right?
Yeah.
I once, by the way, just as a quick interjection, I went to my doctor the other day because I thought I had a Hittite on my Uriah, but it turns out I got a cream and it cleared it right up. So,
do you have any
Yeah,
left?
I told you. I took a look at it and I said it's not a Uriah cream thing. Dan doesn't believe me.
So here's a little spoiler about this story. The good guy of the story is not the guy whose star is on the Israeli flag.
Okay.
So
Right.
The story comes from 2 Samuel chapter 11, and although David dominates the books of Samuel and Chronicles, this is like one half of one chapter. But there's a lot in this story. There's a lot to kind of tease out. We're sometime in the 9th or 10th century BCE, probably. Who cares? And the army of Jerusalem is at war. They are laying siege to the city of Rabbah. Anybody?
Okay.
Anybody?
Rubber.
So I'm going to just say right now, I'm going to mispronounce a bunch of things, but I spoke Klingon the other day and didn't get any tweets at me. So clearly I'm either fluent in Klingon or I have an amazing gift for language.
So I'm
going to say both.
I actually scolded our Twitter followers. I said, seriously, we did a thing about the Klingon religion and nothing? Crickets? Nothing.
So Jerusalem is laying siege to Rabbah because, the Gentiles aren't going to kill themselves. But David stayed behind in Jerusalem for reasons unknown. And while walking on his rooftop garden at evening tide, he noticed a woman bathing herself down below, and she was, quote, very beautiful to look upon.
Sure.
And, David inquired after her and found out that she was called Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah the Hittite. Now, before we get to the fucking, a little background on Uriah. I'm Mormon, so I want to do a hard eye on every eye.
Who knows? Urethra,
No,
I think is how it's pronounced.
Uriah. Okay, so although he was called a Hittite, it's unlikely that he was actually an ethnic Hittite. Now, although it had been a few generations since the Israelite invasions of Canaan, so there was a bit of detente between whatever tribes had survived those invasions and the Israelites. It was still illegal for a non-Israelite, non-Jew to marry a Jew. And Bathsheba was certainly a Jew.
Okay.
Her lineage is in the story, so we know where she comes from. And then the other thing is, although in addition, Uriah, who, as we will soon learn, is in the Israelite army, which did allow for Gentiles and Jewish converts to serve. However, he was also one of what was called David's mighty men. And these were 37 of the most elite, deadly, and loyal soldiers in the entire army, and were thought to be only full-blood Jews. So it's more likely that Uriah lived among the Hittites at some point or lived in a Hittite area, and this was just a moniker or nickname. In any case.
It was racism. It was racism.
It was racism. That is certainly the case. The name Uriah, by the way, means God is my light. However, as we'll soon see, Uriah might have been on God's side, but God most definitely was not on his. This also kind of throws into doubt whether or not David didn't know who Bathsheba was, because if her husband was one of his 37 elite super soldiers, and she lived within sight of his palace, they most certainly knew each other.
Yeah.
But
that's where she bathed anyway. Maybe she lived someplace else, but they had separate bathroom facilities. Who knows?
Right.
It's lost to history.
Yeah. So Uriah, as I mentioned before, was in the Israelite army, and he was off sieging Rabbah with the rest of the army.
Like you do.
So David sent for Bathsheba and had her brought to him, and then he lay with her. Now, it does not say in the text, nor do the writers of the story seem to give a shit, whether or not Bathsheba gave her consent.
Right. No.
Right.
That's
Okay, just biblical scholar weighing in here. Consent was not a concept. Consent, and in much of the religious world, it remains not a concept. So it certainly wasn't a concept 3,000 years ago.
Exactly.
Right. Well, female consent isn't a concept.
Especially if you're the king of anything.
Right.
Right.
So sometime after this romantic evening / kidnapping and rape, Bathsheba sent word to David that she was preggers. And this is a problem. Although David was king of Israel, his hold on power was tenuous, as demonstrated by the fact that he had seized power from and killed Saul, whose son was his BFF.
His boyfriend, his
right.
fuck buddy. I think it actually says that.
It does. Well, in the it does say that in the original Hebrew, but the translations vary.
This might be a good time to remind everybody that we're in the King James version of the Bible, the only version that matters. And of course, David was almost dethroned by one of his own sons a few years later, who almost had him put to death. So it wasn't like he had a completely solid grip on the throne at this time. Therefore, this pregnancy constituted a potentially dangerous scandal for him, and could have caused the collapse of the army if the army were to get wind that David was back home fucking everybody's wives.
Right.
Especially one of the power friends' wives. Right.
One of the Green Berets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do they call those stupid little hats that they wore?
I don't know.
The Israelites. The Israelite soldiers.
Yarmulkes?
No, the green yarmulkes.
What did they wear?
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, moving on. Okay, so David reached out to his main general Joab and asked him to send Uriah the Hittite to give him a report on the war.
I love Joab. Joab is my favorite so far.
Pretty great. So David's expectation was Uriah would come back, give him the report, go home, sleep with his wife, and wash away any evidence of this bastard child.
Suddenly it's his kid now. Not, what are you talking about, my kid?
Yep.
There's no bastard. What?
Exactly. So Uriah comes home, gives his report to David. David says, thank you much. You're free to go. Yeah. Uriah leaves, but he doesn't go home. He sleeps on the steps of the palace with the other servants.
What?
Yeah. So
he's too dedicated to the king.
He's too dedicated to the king.
His commander.
David gets word of this and brings it back in and says, why didn't you go home to your wife? Now, here's where we get an interesting insight into the character of Uriah, and it's the only words he speaks in the entire story. Uriah tells David, quote, "The ark and Israel and Judah abide in tents, and my lord Joab and the servants of the Lord are encamped in open fields. Shall I then go into mine house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife? As thou livest, as thy soul liveth, I will not do this thing."
Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
So, I smell a rat.
He's a fucking Boy Scout.
I'm calling bullshit. I think Jonathan lived on the steps. That man.
Yeah,
if you're not interested in going home to your wife and having a nice meal with your wife, because it's not doing his soldiers any good for him to abstain.
Well, and let's remember that this Bathsheba is kind of the most beautiful woman in the land.
Yeah, right.
But he's so dedicated.
Has he seen her bathe? Jesus.
I mean, if you only get one line to give in a story, you could do worse than that one. So David tries again that night. He gets Uriah drunk this time, hoping that he'll pull a me and make a terrible drunken mistake. However, he doesn't, and he spends
hopefully
second...
that he'll pee on somebody's backpack in the middle of the night.
That only happened 4 times. So this time, David he gets him drunk, tries again. It doesn't work. And so David, if impregnating his soldier's wife while he's at war is not enough, David, without hesitation, takes this thing to a whole other level. He pens a note to Joab, Uriah's commanding officer, and sends it via Uriah's hand, which states the following, quote, "Set ye Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle, and retire ye from him, that he may be smitten and die." And he makes Uriah carry this letter to Joab.
That is the most Trump move in the Bible.
It is so Trump.
Right? Fuck the guy's wife,
right?
Then give him a note to take back to a war that he probably started for no reason to get his ass killed,
right?
Because he's loyal.
And Uriah, who wouldn't go sleep with his wife, loyally carries this letter to Joab, and doesn't read it.
So now wait, if I understand this correctly, what the letter says is put him on the front lines.
Yep.
And then have the rest of the front lines run away.
Correct.
So that
Get his ass killed.
Only he's going to be killed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So Joab does as he's told, and he puts Uriah on the front of a battle of an infantry charge and leaves him there to die. So it's not in the text, but, as kind of a narrative part of the story, I like to imagine that there's just a moment where Uriah is charging the walls of Rabbah, and, he realizes all of a sudden that his army's abandoned him. He sees Joab sitting up on the hilltop watching, and he has a moment where he realizes the depth of the betrayal. And given what we know about Uriah, he probably turned back towards the enemy troops and died well.
And probably and kept running sword front,
right?
Sword first.
You know what? The best portrayal of this moment, which I think is exactly what they were going for. What was the movie where Will Ferrell was joining a fraternity? And he decides that they're going to streak the quad, and so he runs out drunk naked, thinking everybody's behind him, and his wife has to chase him down in a car and stop him. It's that, right?
Yes,
it's old school.
That's right.
Old school. That's
Yeah.
right. And I think this was old school. Was definitely a tribute to Bathsheba and Uriah.
There you go.
So what do we learn about Uriah from this story? He has an incredibly attractive wife. He was an amazing soldier. He was brave, loyal, honest, upright, right? What do we learn about David from this story? He was adulterous, lecherous, very probably a rapist, dishonest, deceitful, disloyal, and murderous. The protagonist.
And
Right,
king.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That-
and king.
And king.
When you said that this was going to be about an upstanding guy in the Bible, I was like, that's not going to end well
Right.
for him.
Exactly.
Nothing goes well when you're
Exactly.
that guy in the Bible.
And it's so
let's-
strange because you only get this little snippet of what Uriah is, but he's clearly what you would want
Oh yeah.
as in your army,
Yeah.
right? So now, since this is the story of Uriah the Hittite, not of David, and since Uriah is now dead, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about what happened next, but I'll steal a gag from the Gamcast kids and just give you the Breakfast Club close on all of the characters. So, although what David did displease the Lord, quote unquote, and although biblical scholars have spent 3,000 years trying to justify his actions and or prove that he repented for them,
Right, because he's like one of the great heroes of the Bible.
absolutely.
Yeah.
He's never removed from office. He dies peacefully, and he remains one of the most revered and admired characters in the Bible to this day.
He's also
Yeah.
the guy that, when the religious right try to justify their
Yes.
their intense appreciation and love for Donald John Trump,
Yep.
they always go, David was a man of God. He wasn't perfect, but God chose him, and that's why he's good, and blah blah blah.
And you know what?
Yeah,
They're not wrong.
they're not wrong.
Yeah.
They're just taking all of the wrong lessons from that goddamn book.
Right. So Bathsheba did mourn the loss of her husband, but then once the mourning period was over, she married David. Again, her consent was never discussed in the story. The child of this unholy union died nameless days after its birth.
Okay.
However, Bathsheba would go on to birth Solomon, who would take over David's reign and go on to marry some 700 wives, 300 concubines, build a temple that still causes bloodshed to this day, and almost cut a baby in half.
Right, and do the one thing for which he is considered the wisest of all kings, which is the most horrific thing he could possibly have done, and also not remotely plausible.
Right.
And he would have those minds that Richard Chamberlain would later explore in a knockoff of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right.
Starring Chuck Norris. Right?
No, I think it was. No, I think
King
it was
Solomon's
Richard
Mines.
Chamberlain.
Wasn't that Chuck Norris?
No, it looked like him, but it wasn't. There weren't enough kicks in it. It was Richard Chamberlain.
Well, if it had starred Chuck Norris, it would have gone better. He could have kicked the diamonds out of the mines.
Joab, you'll be interested to know, was eventually killed by Solomon on a deathbed order by David. So some suspect that he'd always been a problematic rival to David's reign, and because he knew the truth about Uriah, he had to go.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it for Uriah. It's. I mean, I actually, honestly, legitimately like this story. It's got these great moments of kind of pathos and betrayal, and you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
it's,
sure.
It's kind of interesting. It's kind of fun. It doesn't belong in a book about morals.
No. Well, I mean, it does. It's just that the conclusion of that particular book is on the wrong side of the moral question.
Yeah, it belongs in an episode of Game of Thrones.
Well, and it's so shitty and cruel and awful, and without miracles that you're like, yeah, it's probably true. Like this probably actually happened because it's just awful people behaving awfully towards the one decent person in their midst, right?
Right.
And so I love. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say the crazy thing is it's half a chapter, and there's never a moment where David struggles over these decisions. He sees Bathsheba, he fucks her. Finds out she's pregnant, he gets Urias in the house. He won't go home, he sends him with a letter to get him killed. Like, there's no like, oh no, what am I going to do? Yeah, my kingdom is in trouble.
He doesn't pray to the Lord for a solution to any of this stuff. Or even, like, think.
Nope. He's just, does it.
He's a man of action. He's a total man of action. I love that
the Trump comparison starts to make more sense now.
Exactly.
Totally makes more sense. I bet he had just fucked up hair. And then, I also love that when the new foundling state of Israel is like, what symbol do we want to gather beneath? What banner do we want to fly over our heads to say something about ourselves? And that's what they chose.
Yeah.
Nice moves, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
That's sweet.
Sweet flag. We here at the How to Heretic will fly the flag of Uriah.
That's right.
Yeah,
the star. Does he have a star? What does he have?
I don't know.
He's got like a planet. I don't know what he's got.
It's a picture of Joe Bluth looking back behind him, going, "I made a terrible mistake." All right, well, Doug, thanks for that wonderful piece of probably rarely true amorality.
Yeah, let's move on.
Well, friends, that's it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you, regardless of the number of breasts on your chest. Send us an email at howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or if you've chosen an orifice other than your buttock or your poos to stick a crystal in, tell us about it in voicemail at 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986.
Yeah.
Also, you can yell at me on Twitter about all things crystalline or horrible mutilation.
Yeah. Hey, thanks again to our patrons for all of their kind help.
Yep, and thanks to Cody Layton for editing the show.
And thank you, all you dear friends out there, for tuning in.
All right, bye, friends.